Good afternoon, everybody. Big Mike back here with you once again. Welcome back to Big Mike Talks, where today I'm going to be talking about the week that was in pro wrestling. So that's going to start with NWA Power and AEW Dynamite. Yes, sadly, no Monday Night Raw. I ended up having a fiesta with my family for Cinco de Mayo. And that was a lot of fun. So I did miss out on Monday Night Raw. But that doesn't mean the review stops here, because I will be reviewing NWA Power and AEW Dynamite. Both interesting in their own right. I'll leave it at that. So I want you to sit back, relax, get yourself your favorite beverage, and let's do this. So we start off with NWA Power, and we have an Aaron Stevens promo. He's somewhere in the, I think he's in his gym, I guess. I'm not even sure how to approach it. Basically, he says, Latimer, your entire career is a legacy most people would kill for. And Tom, you have challenged me to a fight, and I have no business in this ring. I am a manager. But Tom wants to call me out, so I'm going to spin it like this. I accept your challenge as long as the NWA title is on the line, but I choose the battlefield. And I want to film your demise in my house. So I'm going to hurt you physically and mentally. I'm going to give you the opportunity to relinquish your title to me. And remember, mi casa is su casa. So I'm not 100% sure Stevens actually means they're going to fight in his house. But I think this is going to be more, we're going to have this fight in my ring at my training school or whatever. Which I think could be fun. So, our first matchup of the evening, and it is a triple threat match featuring a couple NWA debuts. As we get Kelsey Heather taking on Valentino Rossi, taking on La Rosa Negra. Obviously, La Rosa is a veteran here in NWA. And, so the two newcomers attempt to hit some double team moves on La Rosa Negra. Eventually, she fights out of it, misses on her shoulder with Heather hitting a pretty impressive leg sweep, but only getting a 2. The two newcomers hitting a couple of big boots and then a big leg drop for a 2 count. They attempt a couple of roll-ups, only for a 2 count. La Rosa Negra with a drop toe hold into a crossface, but that gets countered. Into a jawbreaker and an impressive drop kick. A codebreaker from Rossi, which that was impressive. But then Negra with a leg whip. An attempt at a shooting star, but that only gets a 2. Negra with a toe hold. Goes for a knee bar, but that gets countered. La Rosa attempts an elbow drop. Hits an elbow drop. Hits the airplane spin slam on her other opponent. Big super kick. And then finishes off with a cookie splash. So, this was definitely more a showcase for La Rosa Negra. But the other two definitely showed their stuff. And hopefully these two get a more of a spotlight soon. We then get a Joe Kazana campaign video as he's running for president of the territories. Which, it's the same video we saw last week. So nothing really new there. Next matchup, we got the Colognes, Epico and Primo, if you remember them. Former WWE Tag Team Champions. I think they won titles in their uncle's promotion. So that's definitely interesting. As they take on Odinson and Kratos, the Immortals. And this was pretty much a power versus finesse match, and it worked really, really well. Primo and Epico have definitely been practicing. Their ring work is off the charts. One point we see Primo biting down on the head of Kratos, which that was interesting. Primo then goes to the outside, grabs a chair. The ref catches him. Then Epico attempts a backstabber that gets blocked into a big pounce by Odin's son, and then a body slam by Kratos. For your winners, the Immortals. Kind of a nothing match, but I'm glad this was very competitive. I'm interested to see what the Colognes have in store for us next. We then get a Brian Idol campaign video. Of course, he's running for NWA Territory President. Then we get an outside promo, I guess, from the Page sisters. And they're out in their car. They're outside of their house, and they're washing their car, which is very interesting. With Kenzie saying to Kylie, I love this and the enthusiasm out here, but I'm not in the mood. Idol just came over and talked shit to Hunter, which apparently is Kenzie's boy, which is interesting. So Kylie says to Kenzie, Idol and Markova are just haters. Idol is old and has a bad shoulder. Hunter can handle him. Kenzie then says, well, I know he can, but I can't. I've got to deal with all of this going on, being champion, and then I've also got a wedding? That's a new detail. So Kylie says, look, obviously you know best. The wedding has caused you nothing but stress on top of everything. And you're their champion, so you shouldn't have to worry about all this. And you should push the wedding back a while. And do it for yourself. You gotta do something for you. So Kenzie puts down the hose she was washing the car with, says, you're right, I should do something for myself. I'm gonna push the wedding back, and I'm gonna focus on being champion. So that was a nice little promo between the Page sisters, with Kylie giving advice. I got a bad feeling Kylie's about to turn on Kenzie. So then we get a sit-down interview with Brian Idol, Trevor Murdoch, and Joe Kazana. With Brian being told, oh, you're last in the polls. So he then says, polls are never accurate. What I do is what I do. And I got the best. I'm obviously the best for the job. We'll get into how I'm actually going to help the NWA, but I'm going to keep it short. So then Murdoch chimes in. He's sitting in the middle. He's got his U.S. cap on, and he says, I'm going to do what's best for the NWA. I'm going to suspend my campaign for territory president, and Brian, you should too. Brian then says to Trevor, oh, you should back me then. Then Joe Kazana says to Murdoch, so you guys have backed out, huh? I can hook both of you up, Trevor, Idol, I can hook you up with the tickets to your favorite sports team. Trevor, I could get you some nice property. And the interviewer says, "Oh, they're bribing your constituents here?" So Kazana says, "No, this isn't just bribing. It's an offer for some friends. And this is just a friend's deal." And then Murdoch, it's a smile and a thumbs up. That was definitely kind of a funny little moment. We need more of this for the campaign, because that was honestly funny. So next up, we got an interesting little combination. We got the first teaming of the Lost. So that's Alex Misery and Gags the Gimp. We'll see the other guy later, as they take on the Franken team of Jeremiah Plunkett, the Mid-America champion, and Joe Acasio. And obviously this starts with the powerhouses taking advantage of their size. Jeremiah getting some good suplexes in too. That was... I miss watching Jeremiah Plunkett on my TV. Eventually the Lost do take advantage a little bit with Gags, locking in a bow and arrow. But Joe powers out of it. Alex Misery comes in. Gags hits a big shoulder. Misery hits a leg drop and then an elbow drop, only for 2. Gags gets tagged back in, hits a couple of strikes, attempts a suplex that gets countered into a big spine buster. That partners get tagged in. Joe with a bunch of clotheslines. Alex trying for a cross body that gets caught into a big old gut buster. And a big suplex for a 2. Misery hits a moonsault, only for a 2 count. Then Gags gets in the ring. They hit a battering ram. Kind of like the... Oh, what were they? I'm going to call them the sheep herders. From back in the day. Then all of a sudden, Lev comes in. That's the third man. He hits the Messiah complex on Acosta. So your winners by DQ are Joe Acosta and Jeremiah Plunkett. But then we see ringside Father's James Mitchell in. So it looks like he's going to be the new manager of the Lost, which that could be interesting. Then we get the final campaign video of not the final one. We'll get to that. We get the Kenzie Page campaign video, which is, why a woman promo, which I'm kind of sick of. We then get an Around the Territory segment, which I always enjoy. We then go to our main event match, which I'll admit has been hyped up a bit. It's Hunter Drake taking on Brian Idol. And Hunter, he takes advantage early. Eventually, Idol does use his height advantage. Hunter then with a big old dive, which is crazy. Then we go to a commercial in which it's the Pastor CeeLo campaign video. Then we go back to action, and they're just chopping the heck out of each other. Idol with a big suplex, only for 2. Hunter counters with a big Rana. Hits a couple of kicks, hits a suplex, and a shooting star for a 2 count. Attempts a suplex. Idol rolls him up for a 1 count. but then rolls out of it, hits a drop kick for a 2. He attempts the moonsault, whiffs. Hunter goes for a kick, that gets caught. Idol with a kick right to his head. Idol attempts a code red, that gets countered. No, Hunter attempts a code red, that gets countered into a super kick by Idol, who then turns him over into a Texas Cloverleaf for the submission win. And then post-match, Idol helps Hunter up, and they shake hands. So, a nice way to end that match. A very, very drawn-out match, which I'm very surprised by. We'll see how this relationship either helps or hurts the Page sisters. And then we get a similar to the Aaron Solo promo from earlier. We got a Tom Latimer promo, except he's in front of an NWA ring. And he says, "Stevens, I used to admire you. You were one of the first guys I saw when I came to the States. You made others into stars, but you were never given your roses. You made dog crap into money, but you've clearly lost your way. You'd think that lies get you to the top. And as a fighting champion, I'll fight you anywhere at any time. It doesn't matter where. I'll wrestle you anywhere. I know one day you should be champion, but not while I'm champion. And that's the most grace I can give you." Tom Latimer is such a good promo. He is so underrated. He feels like a more complete wrestler than he was Bram in Impact. So, yeah, definitely good to see him finding himself a little bit more. So, that was NWA Power. A bit of a, I don't want to say a rushed show, but it definitely felt, the flow of the show felt a little weird. Like, obviously, we got the Crockett Cup coming up. We got the finals for the heavyweight title tournament. We got the Aaron Stevens stuff. We got the who's going to be the president of the territories. It definitely feels like there's pieces there, but they're not fitting together as a cohesive narrative right now. So hopefully post all this, we get more of a focus on the Crockett Cup and then what comes after. So that was Power. We now move on to AEW Dynamite. We start off with a Hangman Adam Page promo. Comes right out and says, I don't know if I understand why anyone here would cheer for me again. I want to let you know it does make a difference, which gets a huge reaction from the crowd. He continues, I wish I didn't have to say it, but the past 2 years have been as special as hell. I wanted revenge, and I found it. I took the hopes and dreams and nearly killed him. This is Swerve he's talking about. And I thought I would feel joy in an awful chapter in my life, but I feel nothing. Truth is, I don't know why. I couldn't find closure, and I have unleashed on anyone standing in my way. And after that, I had to make a decision. Swerve, I will never forget or forgive what you did to my family, but I'll have to put it behind me. I've made my decision to enter the Owen Hart Cup. I beat everyone put in front of me. And at Double or Nothing, for a chance at the world title, I face Will Ospreay. And on that beat, out comes Mr. Ospreay. He gets a fantastic reaction. And Ospreay gets a microphone, but he doesn't say anything. Instead, kind of folds his arms at his chest and they just have a stare down. Like, it feels like these two hate each other. And that's awesome. So then Ospreay then brings the microphone up, says, "Sorry for interrupting. It's been strange. In all the promotions we've been a part of, this is our first time speaking together." Which, that is honestly very interesting. Ospreay continues, "I understand how much this match means to you. One of my favorite moments in wrestling. You took the Dark Order, showed them leadership, rode that support to the AEW World title, but after you lost it, everything changed. And last week, we all saw something from you we haven't seen in a while. You smiled again. We haven't seen you do that in a long time. And while I really want you to beat your demons and get back to your spot, at Double or Nothing, I'm not losing. I've been tearing this place apart while you've been doing your soul searching. I've been doing all of your jobs. And I show them this is where the best wrestle. And while you have found yourself, it doesn't mean cowboy shit to me. It's not about your redemption. It's about my ascension, bruv." Dude, that was I loved that. That was awesome. Then out comes the Don Callis family. So that's Lance Archer, Takeshita, Roppongi Vice, which is a choice, and Kyle Fletcher. So Callis, he leads the way. He has the microphone, says, "Every day, Ospreay, you show me how stupid you are. And you proved to me how stupid you are when you left the family. And know what's next for you? Doris, this man put his mentor in the hospital." So Ospreay retorts saying, "Look, what? You guys are all out here. We're ready to go. Why don't you bring two of your guys out?" And Callis interrupts him saying, "See what's going on? You can't get through a segment without you two wanting to kill each other. So next week, I'm going to send two of my guys to beat you down next week." And nice little back and forth segment. I wish it wasn't the Don Callis family. Maybe it should have been the Death Riders or someone else. But you know what? It's a nice little setup for next week for the go home for Double or Nothing. Which I think it's next week, or is it the week after? I don't quite remember. So then we get a little card rundown, and as that's happening, FTR and Stokely Hathaway approach the desk. They kind of get in the face of Tony Schiavone. And Stokely says, "Let me ask you something, Tony. Why do you have an issue with FTR? And if I recall, they issued you an apology, but you never said anything positive about us. You're nothing but a pale, pasty piece." And that's when Tony kind of shoves Stokely a little bit. FTR about to jump in. Stokely holds them back and says, "Relax, you're just a little tense." So then Dax Harwood takes over, says, "Garcia, you want answers? You made those decisions yourself, and you gotta learn your lesson the hard way, and it's going to hurt us more than it's going to hurt you." And before they leave, Stokely tells Tony Schiavone, tell Nigel we'll see him tomorrow. Because Collision was actually on Thursday. Won't be covering that today. We'll be doing that on Monday. So sit tight for that. So then, very interesting segment. Usually I'm not all for non-wrestlers getting involved in wrestling storylines. But if this is to get Nigel McGuinness back in the ring another time, I'm in. So anyway, we cut to backstage with Anna Jay and Harley Cameron. Kind of cutting a promo, kind of just being silly. So this is Anna Jay starting. Saying, Harley, you got my back tonight. I'm going to be facing 3 other worthy competitors. Harley then says, well, you got the T and I've got the A. Which, nice little reference there. Harley says something else. I didn't quite catch it because she is a very, very fast talker. But then Anna Jay finishes it. Who wants to get choked out? Then Harley and Anna Jay leave on piggyback. Which, these two are just too pure together. I love this teaming. Is this kind of AEW sowing the seeds for a women's tag division? Because I think they got the depth for it. I kind of hope they execute it really well. And this leads us to our next matchup as Timeless Toni Storm is this is non-title as she takes on Thunder Rosa, her Thunder Tits tag team partner, Penelope Ford, no Megan Bayne yet. We'll get to her. And Anna Jay. So, definitely some people we haven't seen in a while. This match did start out a little clunky at first, but eventually they did get some cohesion, especially with Thunder Rosa and Toni Storm teaming up against the other two. Then after an attempted suplex by Toni Storm, out comes Megan Bayne, who just runs over everyone besides Penelope Ford. Hits a face to set on Anna Jay, which that looked brutal. Eventually, Harley Cameron comes out, clotheslines Megan Bayne over the top rope, and she's actually holding a pipe, so she had some pipe shots on her. At that point, Penelope Ford locks in the Indian Deathlock on Anna Jay. That gets broken up by Toni Storm, who then locks Penelope Ford in the rear naked choke, aka the Coquina Clutch, to win via submission. And I kind of dig that. I'm not sure what the plan is for Toni Storm at Double or Nothing. Hopefully it's something interesting. But she's going to get a worthy opponent at All In. It's either going to be Monet or it's going to be Jamie Hayter. Either one would be great. So then, after we see Rosa and Storm celebrating, we then get Lio Rush and Action Andretti, aka the Crew. They are out in the crowd. So, let's keep that in mind. And this leads to a promo from the Hurt Syndicate. And thankfully, it's not like what we got the last few weeks. So, MVP starts off saying, I'm standing here with Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley, the 2 tag team champions. And I have a question. AEW is where the best wrestle, correct? Where are all the top teams who are gunning for us? Who's going to hurt us? If there's anybody that wants to step up and get hurt, bring it on. Then out comes Darius and Dante Martin of Top Flight, with Dante kind of taking the lead, saying, let's be real, Top Flight have been down on their luck recently, but we can't look at this as the challenge, this challenge as an opportunity. MVP then asks, would you like to be next? So Dante grabs the mic, says, look, we get hurt, we get right back up. We know we are the underdogs going into this, but we've proved time and again we can hold our own against the best teams in the world. In Motor City, who wants to see us fight the Hurt Business right now? They're about to get in the ring. Then all of a sudden, MJF in like a wife beater and just jeans comes out, and he just starts pummeling both members of Top Flight. And I mean both of them. Just beat the ever-living beep out of them. So then MJF leaves them laying. He gets in the ring, gets on the mic. He says, I hurt people. That gets a nice big reaction. So then Lashley takes the microphone from MJF, says, I'll let you know next week. Oh, that's interesting. Because we know someone from the Hurt Syndicate's past, a past member, who just became a free agent. That's going to be interesting next week, brother. Anyway, so now we get a promo with the Elite. So that's the Young Bucks and Okada. So Matthew says, for the love of God, the announcers, let's show some enthusiasm for your founders. So tonight is going to be an Elite sweep as we got Okada in singles action. I don't quite clearly hear what Okada said, but he definitely said bitch, which that's a great sentence ender. He walks off. So the Young Bucks then say, and we got some trios action, and our partner for tonight is Ricochet. So Ricochet comes in, he's got his backwards Eagles cap on, with Ricochet coming in saying, well, this wasn't my idea. I got a swerve problem. If you guys follow my lead, I'll lead us to victory. So he walks off. The Young Bucks then walk into their locker room. They open the door. It's pitch fucking black in there, but you can clearly see some outlines as it's the Death Riders hanging in there. So the Bucks then go in and they close the doors. Are we about to see the formation of the Elite Death Riders? I guess we'll wait and see. Anyway, so earlier in the night, it was announced that Nick Wayne would be defending his ROH TV title against someone from Christian Cage's past. Which, honestly, that rattled my brain. I thought, oh, it's Kurt Angle. No, he just had double knee surgery. He ain't wrestling. I thought, oh, it's Tomko. But he's dealing with his own stuff. So Nick Wayne makes his entrance. That's interrupted by the Patriarchy, who all come out together. Who's the mystery opponent? Gore! 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 It's Detroit's own Rhino! And honestly, it's so good to see Rhino in AEW. I don't think he's signed. I think this is going to be a one-off. But Rhino still looks great. He looks like a dang monster. Nick Wayne tries to lock up with him, but Rhino pushes him down. Nick Wayne then rolls to the outside, gets some advice from Cage, gets back in, starts hitting anything that moves on Rhino, including locking him into a sleeper, which that's honestly very smart. Rhino breaks the heck out. Nick Wayne with then a hair pull goes for a moonsault, but that whiffs. Rhino Then some strikes and clotheslines into the corner, finishing up with a suplex. Then Kip Sabian gets on the apron, distracts the ref, and I guess Rhino for a second. Rhino then turns around. Nick Wayne goes for, I guess it was a crossbody. Rhino then catches it, hits a belly-to-belly suplex on him, hits a spinebuster on him. Not only gets a 2 count, Rhino sets up. He looks for the gore. Nick Wayne counters it, then hits a kill switch to finish the match. And as Wayne's celebrating and the ref is about to present the title to him, Christian Cage rips it from the ref's hands, and he's kind of inspecting it. Nick Wayne grabs hold of one of the straps. They kind of have a little tug of war. Cage is then like, whoa, let's take it easy. He goes to put the title on around Nick Wayne's waist like he did last week. But then he stops. He looks down at it. And he drops it at Nick Wayne's feet. So then, after that, Christian Cage and Kip Sabian leave. I was kind of hoping we'd see Kill Switch at this point. I do miss my big old wrestling dinosaur. But this is kind of an interesting little story. So then we go backstage. They're in front of some steps somewhere for a Roosh promo. Definitely been a while since I've seen him. Where he says, Kevin Knight, you got your money. Well, now you owe me money that you cost me. And you will pay in blood. So, definitely an interesting little setup for Roosh and Kevin Knight, which we'll see a little follow-up a little later. But first, we got a 6-man tag team match playa. We got Mark Briscoe and Speedball Mike Bailey teaming with Swerve Strickland to take on Ricochet and the Young Bucks. And at first Ricochet and Swerve start out. Swerve with some big strikes. Then Ricochet looks to tag out. The Bucks jump down from the apron. And Swerve just goes to town on Mr. Ricochet, hitting some snake eyes into a big boot. This brings in Mark Briscoe and Speedball. Speedball with an aided Rana. Briscoe with a clothesline. And then an elbow, only for a 2. Then Mike Bailey with the head pats to Ricochet. Then as Speedball is going for his next attack, Matthew from the outside grabs his leg. Ricochet with a jawbreaker into a drop kick, and a whole bunch of sentons from the rest of them. This brings in the other 2 of Team Babyface, in which the Bucks and Ricochet bail out. They kind of huddle for a second. It looks like they're all going to get back in the ring, but Ricochet gets in by himself and just eats all of the attacks from the baby faces. Eventually, Nick Wayne does tag in, hitting an X Factor, and then a moonsault. Then everyone gets their stuff in, finishing with Ricochet hitting a 450 splash. He attempts a powerbomb, but that gets blocked. Mike Bailey with a big couple knees to the corner. An enziguri. This leads to Mark Briscoe and Nicholas Jackson being tagged in. It's a couple of kicks into a shooting star for a 2. Nicholas with a Falcon Arrow. Eventually, Matthew gets tagged in, hits a big Rana, whiffs on the shooting star. Mark Briscoe with a big old Spanish fly for a 2 count. They go back and forth like this for a while. Young Bucks with a couple of super kicks. Swerve with a house call. Ricochet with a destroyer, in which Swerve counters out of it into another house call. Young Bucks attempt the super kick party. That gets blocked into some kicks from Speedball. This brings Swerve and Ricochet in, and they just start beating each other up. Swerve with a couple of uppercuts. Tosses Ricochet to the outside. Young Bucks get in, hit a hip toss into a gator roll. Attempt the suplex. That gets blocked via the suplex from Swerve. Mark Briscoe attempts a Rana. That gets caught into a power slam. That was impressive. Swerve attempts a super kick. That gets blocked into a backbreaker, a Death Valley driver, and then a knee drop. Briscoe with a big old baseball slide to the outside. Actually, that's Bailey. Briscoe attempts a froggy bow, only to get a 2 count. Ricochet then grabs Swerve from behind, hits a neck breaker, and then a moonsault. Then Matthew Jackson with the roll-up on Swerve. So your winners are the Young Bucks and Ricochet. I was kind of hoping this would be more of a significant win via the finishers, but I'm definitely okay with heels cheating and taking advantage of a situation. So then we go backstage for a Will Ospreay interview, saying who knows what we have in the future. This match is going to be great, hyping up his match at Double or Nothing. Then MJF comes in. He says, hold on, let me show this thing for a second. Apparently, a version of the Dynamite Diamond Ring is on sale on AEW.com. So check that out. Ospreay waits for him and says, what do you want? MJF counters, wow, what's with all the hostility? Here's the thing. I want you to win the Owen Hart Cup, win my AEW title, so I can get another easy W. So then Ospreay retorts, oh, if you think that was going to be that easy, why weren't you in the Owen itself? It's going to end up just like what happened at Wembley again. MJF retorts, you're the reason they put directions on shampoo bottles. Ospreay retorts, I hope we do wrestle again. So I can prove... no, this is MJF still. So I can prove that no one is on the level of the devil. Ospreay kind of smirks and says, well, Mr. Devil, I'm on another level, bruv. So that was a nice little back and forth. We'll see if that's the plan for All In. I doubt it, but maybe we'll see something like that in the future. We then get a Jamie Hayter interview. I think it's a sit-down interview somewhere else, where she says, you know what this means to me? I sat there last week listening to her talk about her legacy, and said she won't be representing Owen. If she's more than just a hive, she would show she's more than just an egotistical woman we know today. And she called me fake. We are nothing alike. I'm the action and the energy. I don't have the resume or the star power, but I have the integrity and more reasons to hurt her. I'm not treating her like I'm not going to treat her like a second coming. I'm good to go. Monet is looking past me. Then as she's about to finish up, Monet comes in, grabs Hayter by the hair, and then runs. Hayter chases her, ends up chasing her into the arena. They brawl on the ramp for a bit. Hayter attempts the Haterade, but Monet runs off. And as Hayter is celebrating, Monet comes back out and attacks her from behind. Locks in the Statement Maker to finish the segment. I kind of liked that. This was definitely a bit different from what we were getting with AEW. I want some more interactions like this. Not every week, but more like intense interactions like this. Then we get a Willow Nightingale interview. They're kind of in the same place they were, where Willow says, we're not alone. My fight with the Death Riders is getting longer and longer. And but before she can finish, in walks Chris Statlander, who says, well, if we're not going to talk in private, why don't we air out our laundry right now? I clearly should have won the Owen Hart tournament last year. Willow then says, I had my opportunity last year too, and I lost. And it was because of you. Statlander then says, okay, next, obviously there's nothing more to talk about. Why don't we see each other in the ring tomorrow night? Willow then says, I know a few sickos who would love to see that. Stat then says, there's nothing more to say. I'll see you tomorrow. And we'll get to that on Monday. But that interaction was also, while a little bit more traditional, I also did like. You can feel the intensity between these two. So our next matchup, we got Kazuchika Okada taking on Kevin Knight. And as Kevin Knight is making his entrance, who decides to come out? It's Roosh, and he attacks Knight on the ramp. While Dralistico is out there fighting off security. Roosh then chokes Kevin Knight out with a broadcast cable. Mike Bailey then comes in and makes the save. You got Mike Bailey and the ref checking on Kevin Knight. Kevin Knight gets himself into the ring. Says he's good. Bell rings. Okada with a massive hit attack in the corner. Big kick into a DDT, only for a 2. Attempts the Alabama Slam, but Kevin Knight counters with a roll-up for a 2 count. Okada with a flatliner for 2. He attempts the pile driver, that gets blocked into a couple elbows. Then Okada with the cross chop. Kevin Knight attempts a monkey flip in the corner, that gets blocked into a massive drop kick. And then a clothesline. Knight comes back with a couple of kicks. Okada with the classic boink, eye poke. Okada then with a sky high for a 2 count. Hits a big splash for another 2. Goes for a draping DDT Randy Orton style. That gets blocked into a neck breaker. Scoop slam and an elbow drop. Okada attempts the Rainmaker. That gets blocked into a roll-up for a 2 count. Kevin Knight with a flip kick. Goes for the UFO splash, but that gets blocked. Okada attempts a drop kick. That misses. Okada with a big boot. Hits an uppercut. Hits a couple impressive drop kicks. And then the Rainmaker to put away Kevin Knight. And then I guess Okada gets so frustrated he couldn't put him away early. Picks him up, hits a couple more Rainmakers post-match, but then Speedball Mike Bailey comes out and makes the save as Okada bails out. So that was a nice, fun match. I don't know if these two have ever had a match in New Japan, but I need to see if they did, because if it was as any good as that, I may need to check it out. Then we see the Don Callis family. They're in the back. As Don Callis says, the Outrunners want to challenge us. Roppongi Vice, why don't you two guys find some partners, and you can face the full force of the Don Callis family. So we can go kick your ass back to Tennessee like it's 1985. That's a great line by Don Callis. We get a little Collision rundown along with a Beach Break rundown, in which that card looks very interesting. And then we're going to get something very fun added to it. We'll get to that on Monday. Before that happens, we see the Hurt Syndicate. They're in the back. They're walking away from the arena with the interviewer coming up and MVP saying, look, be very careful. Then she asked Lashley, oh, what is your answer going to be for MJF? Then we see a legal advisor for the Hurt Syndicate, which is very interesting. He leans into Lashley's ear, with Lashley saying, I'm going to take advice from my legal counsel and leave it for next week. And the Hurt Syndicate then just walk off. So, I'm thinking this is where we get a big swerve, where we see the debut of Cedric Alexander and see the full force of the Hurt Syndicate. So that's going to be for next week. We now have our main event of the evening, as we got 1/3 of the Trios champions, Samoa Joe, taking on Claudio Castagnoli. Now, the Claudio entrances have been so cool recently. This one, I think, was one of his best ever. Because we see the camera pan to some hallway in the arena somewhere, and the entire thing is kind of drenched in red light. Then we see Claudio. He's standing in an old school elevator. And there's no glass, just the metal grating from old school elevators. He opens it, and then he walks into the arena. And that's, the aura alone from that. And I don't usually use that word because it's a weird kind of modern thing. But holy crap, did that entrance give Claudio so much energy and aura and badassness. And the match, this match was a hoss fight. These two beat 7 shades of bam out of one another, including tossing each other into barricades, Joe with a big crossbody into a barricade, into Claudio. Joe attempts a muscle buster, but that gets blocked into an eye rake. Couple of arm ringers. Then Claudio locks in a nerve hold, which that's interesting. Joe then fights up, hits a couple of knees, locks in a sleeper, but that gets blocked. Claudio with some strikes and some knees. Joe then with a big old power slam for a 1 count. Joe then with an atomic drop, big boot senton combination for a 2. Goes for a Death Valley driver. Claudio tosses him off into the corner, where Joe stops short in the corner, almost hitting the ref. Claudio with an eye poke and then a big clothesline for a 2. Goes for the Ricola bomb, that gets blocked. Claudio with a couple of uppercuts, attempts the giant swing, but that gets blocked. Then Joe collects him down, locks in the Coquina clutch for the win for Samoa Joe. I do feel like that finish kind of came a little quickly. I know we were still a little bit over time, but I would have liked to see this go on a little bit longer. Anyway, post-match, the Death Riders come out. They surround Joe. Powerhouse Hobbs then comes out with a steel chair, runs everyone off. He and Joe are standing in the ring. Claudio got left by the other Death Riders. So Hobbs with a couple of chair shots to Claudio. Then he walks over to Joe, hands the chair to Samoa Joe. Joe then folds out the chair long ways, gets Claudio, and then hits a face suplex, I guess, onto Claudio, onto the open chair to end the evening. Definitely a bit of an up and down episode of Dynamite. The wrestling was really, really good. I liked a lot of the promos. The only thing that kind of fell flat for me was the main event. We got two high caliber athletes going at it, and it just kind of ends. I don't know. I feel like we were missing a year, and maybe something went on for too long, so they had to cut time for this. I'm not really 100% sure. Either way, it was a very entertaining evening. If you haven't watched Dynamite in a while, I wholeheartedly suggest you go back and watch this one. It was very entertaining. So that's it for this week. I hope you all enjoyed. Coming on Monday is going to be my review for AEW Collision, which was just as good as Dynamite, and WWE SmackDown, which is going to come on later tonight. And then hopefully Tuesday, we are going to get watch WWE Backlash. Have a review for that for Tuesday. So hopefully you're all ready for that. Till next time, happy wrestling, everybody. Peace.